This is the Variety Sports Network, created for the fans, by the fans. Now to your host of tonight's show.
What's up, guys? Welcome back to Saturday Showdown from the Home Field Studios. Guys, another week of college football. Caleb, Brandon, how you guys doing tonight?
Doing pretty good. College football's back in full swing. We're starting week 2 of the NFL season, so all the football's in full swing now, and, great time.
Yeah, it's the perfect time of the year. Brandon, how you doing, man?
Yeah, dude, not too bad. I'm here. It's another week down, and ready to rock and roll.
Okay, rumor has it you have a slight bit of a rant for us today. Is that true?
Yeah, just a tad one, and it's gonna go off of what the Colorado State guy said today
About adults in the room.
Yes, about wearing a hat, wearing sunglasses. To be honest, you have so much more you need to worry about than what the other coach is wearing during his press conferences. Stop worrying about that stuff. Worry about going and beating Colorado this weekend. Okay, take care of your business. Stop worrying about what Colorado's doing. I get. He probably just wanted a little bit of media flash for a day or so. It's all gonna be gone tomorrow. But focus on what you're trying to do instead of worrying about what Deion Sanders is wearing during his press conferences. It's really not that big of a deal.
It came off very petty to me and very, in my opinion, insecure. I understand, Colorado State's been a struggling program for quite a while now, and you're trying to do something there to build them back up. But taking a lame shot like that at Deion Sanders is not going to make anybody respect you more or think any more highly of you. So it definitely fell on tone deaf ears, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Caleb, any thoughts on the Colorado State head coach? I guess trying to take a little bit of a shot at Deion for some kind of disrespect. I don't know.
Yeah, so I saw that today, and it's kind of like you guys are saying, like, you've got more things to worry about. And not only did you come out and, seem petty like that in your press conference, but you also, if you saw Deion's response, you just added fuel to that fire. It's like, he said, I wanted this to be, a good game, but now you made it personal. So,
right.
We've seen what, quote unquote, what happens when you make something personal against this Colorado team.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that was the smartest move on his part, but it's one of those things you don't understand it. But I saw a clip today regarding this with Stephen A. Smith where he said, if he's Deion, he goes out there, takes care of business, beats Colorado State as they should, and then at the end of the game with a handshake, he walks up, takes off his hat, takes off his sunglasses, and shakes his hand and says, "Good game."
Right.
Yeah.
And the Colorado press conference literally has nothing to do with Colorado State. It just doesn't. And that's, like you said, Brandon, it's very, very petty and very unnecessary out of Colorado State. I got people talking about Colorado State for half a day at least, which is probably what he's going for in general. But I just don't think it's going to help them on Saturday when Colorado's running up and down the field, probably winning that game. So you guys got anything else?
Any issues with Colorado State?
Yeah, so it's a weird thing. Do you guys got anything else before we really get into the show today?
I don't think so. That's all I had. It was just kind of annoying.
Yeah, no, I get it. Let's jump into our topics for the day. We're gonna kick it off with some top 25 discussion. I'm gonna ask you guys. We're not gonna go all the way through top 25s each. We're gonna do top 10s because obviously there's a lot of teams and that would take some time. But I do want to ask you guys about the top 25. Has anybody jumped into the top 25 that really surprised you? Because to me, I think the biggest surprise this season has probably been Duke for me personally. What are you guys' thoughts on the top 25 right now? Is anybody glaring at you? Is anybody staring at you that you're like, this team's not there? Just some of your thoughts on the top 25. We're going to base it off the AP top 25. If you guys are wondering at home.
All of the teams that were on it.
I mean, for me, looking at it just this week, A couple of surprises to see in that top 25 is Washington State. A team that, they're one of the, 4 teams or 2 teams technically that now are left in what is the remainder of the Pac-12. And, you look at UCLA up there as well. They've been an up and down program, under Chip Kelly that had successful tenure at Oregon, and he's been up and down since, trying to make that jump to the NFL and then coming back to UCLA in college. So those are a couple of teams that, for me, have jumped out and surprised me a little bit to see them in the top 25, week 3 going into week 3 here.
Mm-hmm.
Brandon, anybody sneak up on you there into the top 25?
Not necessarily into the top 25, but the team that's surprising me a little bit is Oregon State. I guess I just didn't realize how good of a team they have.
They really started building on it last year.
Other than that, maybe Miami, they had a big win against A&M. But so did Clemson. Clemson came out and even though they struggled early, they still didn't, they were able to put the team away. They still couldn't get themselves into the top 25, even though they had 86 votes to get into the top 25. That one, that kind of surprised me that they left them out and put some of those other guys in there. But, it's the top 25. There's a reason behind it all. So,
just looking at something here for you, Caleb, personally, looks like Arkansas is trying to finally get in that a little bit of more respect than they started the season out with, starting to get some votes into the top 25. So, I would assume one win and a couple losses in the top 25, and you guys are right in the mix. What's your thoughts on your guys' team right now?
Yeah, I think it's really close. And, just looking at it, I think, for me and a lot of Arkansas fans looking at it last week was somewhat of a, not necessarily disappointment, but unexpected game on, it wasn't as, in a sense, a blowout against what is a cupcake team, you would say, compared to, you look at the same team lost 56-6 against UCF the week prior, and then we only win 28-6. So it's a game that we're definitely trying to figure out some issues where we've got to, work on our offensive line play. That's where we're really struggling at. We're not getting the push off the front, the right angles, and that's, putting a struggle on the run game where we can't get that going, which, in turn makes it difficult to, get the passing game going as well. But I think last week definitely shows why KJ is one of the best quarterbacks in the country. Is, he had, if it wasn't for him, that's a lot closer game, or, we might not necessarily win that game.
Yeah, it looks like our friends over at Hoops Southbound, they are mentioning you guys' run game. You would expect a little bit more out of Rocket and the gang going forward. Is that something you think the team's going to, look to run the ball, establish the run a little bit more going forward, or what are your thoughts on that?
I think so. One thing to note, Rocket is out. He was out last week, and he's going to be out this week. He's had a knee issue with a little bit of swelling after he tweaked it in game 1. So he was out last week. He's going to be out this week, already announced. So, that's another thing is we're seeing how our depth issues at running back. We've got a lot of talented guys in that room, but, you can have all the talent you want, but until your offensive line play can step it up and make those holes and gaps where it doesn't matter. And so I think we could see an emphasis on that, right at the beginning of the game. I wouldn't be surprised if Sam Pittman really wants to put an emphasis on getting that run game going and, trying to do a heavy dose of running at the beginning of the game. I mean, if you look at BYU stats this year, against their cupcake games, they've only allowed around 60 yards rushing. So that's something that, they could be tough against the run. It's, a thing that both teams, it's going to be a good test for both teams against a higher level opponents.
Yeah, that's great analysis for that game. Obviously, a game to look forward, BYU and Arkansas. Brandon, let me ask you, if you had to rank your top 4 right now, how would you rank them?
For just in general,
your top 4 right now. Yep.
I'd go Georgia. I kind of want to put Florida State above Michigan.
Okay.
I think their wins are more impressive right now than Michigan's. But three will be Michigan, and then 4. Texas had the big win over Alabama. But I think I think it's fair to keep Texas there at 4.
Okay.
Yeah,
Caleb,
it's tough though.
same question to you. Do you have anybody different in your top 4, or is it just different order?
The only thing different, it would be really close, is, they haven't really played anybody, but I'd also probably have USC in consideration up there to, they're at number 5. But, it goes back to what we said several weeks in the show. We're splitting hairs when you look at it. It's really tough. When you look at the wins and the schedule, I can see what, with Florida State, they beat LSU week 1, Texas beats Alabama this past week. They have some really big wins, whereas really who's USC really played.
Right. Yeah, no, I think that's fair. A fair criticism of USC. My only counter would probably be, damn, are they looking good against bad teams, though? Like, even against bad teams, their offense is so fun to watch. Just, it's hard. Caleb Williams is just so damn talented that it's really hard not to be impressed. Yeah, Georgia, Michigan, FSU, USC. I think personally, I think you guys have the first 3 correct. Georgia, Michigan, FSU. I'm going to give Texas that love. I think beating Alabama anytime is still impressive no matter what. And I liked the way that Texas looked. They looked bigger. They looked faster than Alabama. And I think that's a very big deal, in my opinion, when you're looking at a team. Just, just looking at an 8x10 of Texas, you're going to be impressed. So I think that was really a great win for them and their program.
And winning at Tuscaloosa on top of it. That's hard enough as it is. At
Tuscaloosa. That's like the icing on top of the cake right there. Is a game in Alabama, and you go out and beat them. And you beat them. You look pretty good doing it too, to be fair.
My one criticism of this game, when you look at this game, I sat down and watched this game. Really, I think Alabama struggled. They really could have been this game if they would have had a quarterback that is more accurate. You can tell they're missing Bryce Young. They had a quarterback battle going right into week 1 up until the Friday before week 1 where they announced Milroe was starting. They've got the guy that transferred over from Notre Dame. So do you see, I wonder if, Saban decides to, give another guy a shot, or does he roll with Milroe? I think there's several throws in that game. If Milroe was more accurate, this could have been a closer game, or Bama even wins this game.
I think that's actually a fantastic point. Quarterback play is so important in college football. I think unless they get that figured out, it could be a 2 or 3 loss season for them, because it's just going to be tough to win football games in the SEC. It always is. So Milroe obviously has some improvement. I mean, he's still young, but that cost them in a really big game. Brandon, anything else in the top 25 discussion, or anything you want to talk about before we move forward?
I was surprised to still see. I don't want to say surprised. I shouldn't say surprised. I guess that's probably the right term for it. Surprised to see Alabama still at 10. I think there's some teams that are better than Alabama right now, that are below them. One of them is literally right below them in Tennessee, and then Utah and Oregon are right there too. It wouldn't. I mean, it wouldn't have shocked me if Alabama dropped to like 15. Because it's a big game. It was a big game for them. That's a big early season game that they needed to win, not just for SEC play, but for the college the college playoffs later on. So
that's a good point. I personally thought they probably would end up 12 or 13, so I'm there with you. I don't know if Utah beats them on a neutral field right now, but I do think Oregon could probably take them, and I do think them and Tennessee are relatively close. So I don't totally disagree. I just think Utah would probably have a tough time, depending on Cam Rising's health. That could sway me a little bit, but I would probably give Bama the edge there against Utah. Before we move on, I do want to say 8 teams in the top 25 out of the Pac-12.
Yeah,
the Pac-12's never been better, and they're dead. It's the craziest thing. This is the best football they've had in years and years, and it's all going away. It just kind of it's kind of blows my mind that this is the last season of the Pac-12. It's cool that we're getting great football out of the Pac-12 in their last year, but at the same time, what could have been if they were smarter earlier? It's just unfortunate. Really, yeah. I mean, I just find it completely to be unfortunate for a lot of those teams. Let's move on to a topic of discussion that's been going. We've seen coaches complain about it. We've seen, fans kind of questioning why this is all going on. Caleb, you brought it up a little bit earlier. I know you were going to look into it for us. Talk to us about the game clock change, the running clock, the more NFL style clock in college football. If you could give us a little background on that, and we'll ask a couple questions here and there.
Yeah, so when you look this up, that was a rule change for 2023, and the exact rule says the game clock will run after first downs, same as in the NFL, except for the last 2 minutes of each half. So to me, when you look at this, right offhand, you might not think it's such a significant thing. For me being at the game last week, you notice like during commercial breaks or whatever, you have a representative that's on the field to help hold the countdown clock until the commercial is over. It went from last season being 2.5 minutes to 3 minutes. So that's additional 30 seconds per TV timeout. And then when you break it down into some stats, this is just a couple weeks into the season, though. In 2022, you averaged about 131 plays per game, 24 drives per game, and 5.5 plays per drive. Well, you switch into this year, it's down to 117 plays per game, 21.7 drives per game, and 5.4 plays per drive.
Wow. Those are crazy numbers. Okay, so now that we have that data, do you think in general college football is happy with the rule change? College football and the NCAA, do you think they're happy with the rule change? Because to me, it looks like the actual people playing and the coaches aren't as thrilled with the change. So I want you to view it from a coaching side and a playing side and an NCAA side, because it is shortening the games. It does appear.
I mean, so for me, what I've noticed, I think from a coaching perspective, like typically for me, I expect a game, to last around, 3.5 to 4 hours, give or take. Well, with this new rule, being in person at a game last week, we finished in, I believe it was like 2 hours and 45 minutes to 3 hours. So like barely, that's quick. And I think you're seeing this affect throughout different, all of college football by lower scoring games. You're seeing closer matchups, and especially teams that are run heavy. That speeds it up even more because they're just running the clock compared to, if you're throwing the ball and having incompletions and stopping the clock that way. It's definitely interesting. I get where they maybe want to try to get consistency between college and NFL, but at what point do you look at it and see that it's taking away a little bit of what makes college football and the matchups and how that goes.
Yeah, well said. Brandon, do you have anything on the topic? Any thoughts? I mean, as a coach yourself, I mean, what do you think going forward?
So the first thing that came to my mind was that there's less plays, right?
Yep.
This year compared to last year. My big thing is that you got to make those big explosive plays quicker. So that means you're doing it earlier in your drive. You're not getting into your play script as quick. It's taking longer to get through because I mean I would imagine most college offensive coordinators or head coaches, whoever's running the offense for college ball, even NFL ball, that you have a script that you go by, even if it's 5 plays, 10 plays, 15 plays. It's taking longer to get through those scripts, meaning half the time, most of the time, those scripts are getting tossed away quick.
Yeah.
But it also means that you're coming out with those explosive plays early, and I think we're seeing that. You look at Utah and Florida right off the bat. I mean, there was the deep ball right away, and they're trying to score as quick as they can because they know they're not necessarily going to have as many plays later on. Does it make the game faster? Yeah, it's kind of like the MLB rule, like the pitch clock. It's going to make the game faster. There was a game that finished in an hour and 59 minutes today,
Wild.
which is crazy.
Yeah.
But when it comes to people being in the stands, when you're in the stands longer, you tend to spend more while
Mhm.
you're in the stands more. Realistically, most people, not everybody, but a good chunk of people who are there
Yeah.
are going to spend more money while they're there. That doesn't mean
Good
they're going to spend as much during that shorter time. Probably not. So
Okay. I
it
like that
weighs this
perspective.
thing out. But college, they're making more money off of commercials and TV time than they probably are with people buying merchandise and beer and food in the stadium.
Yeah,
That's what it
no,
comes
great
down to.
point. Quick shout out to David. He just mentioned that. He said there is a different feel to the game, but not the number of plays. He's talking about the commercials. Kind of what you're saying, the commercial money. A lot more commercials and things like that happening now. Thank you, David, for chiming in. We appreciate that. And then shout out to everybody who's been in the chat tonight. We really appreciate the conversation. Hey, Tino, how are you? Thanks for stopping in. Like you guys said, play clock, game clock.
Mhm.
It's definitely shortening the games. Is it a negative, guys? Is it a negative thing, or by next year will we even notice anymore? What do you think,
I think
Brandon?
it's one of those things where you're running fewer plays, so technically, I guess you're preserving more of like, the amount of plays these athletes are having to be on the field and play.
Mhm.
But in a sense, like Brandon was saying, those you're having less amount of plays, so you're going to have those big explosive plays earlier, and it puts a greater importance on the plays you are getting to run.
Yeah.
You're running. I think it's around give or take 10% less in
Right.
every game. So
Mhm.
the value of a negative play drastically changes for a team compared to if you're able to run 10 more plays. It might not be as big of a deal compared to now.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
No, yeah, I think you're right. Brandon, go ahead.
I think eventually it kind of like with the pitch clock and everything with baseball. I think eventually it's going to be like, it's not really that big of a deal after all, and it'll just be forgotten about.
Yep. No, I think we hammered that pretty well. I do like the comparison of the pitch clock in baseball. I happen to like the pitch clock in baseball. I think it's
Mhm.
actually made the game more watchable.
I do too.
College football, I never thought there was a time problem. I never thought a college football game was too long.
Mhm.
So I guess I never even knew it was a problem that needed fixed. And that's how it felt to me is, we're fixing something that doesn't need to be fixed. Obviously, offenses are a little down, but overall, we've still seen some pretty crazy scores still happen. So
Yeah.
I think by next year, we're not even going to realize it was ever a problem or, even happening.
Mhm.
So, yeah. So let's move on, guys. I want your guys' picks for game of the weekend. What do we got? Let's start with you, Caleb. Game of the week.
Yeah, so this week doesn't have necessarily a ton of fantastic games that really jump off the page at you. Looking through this week's schedule, one that I think could be a semi-competitive good game for me, I'm going to say Oregon State, San Diego State. I think that could
I
be
like that one.
an interesting matchup just because you've got Oregon State, they're undefeated. You got DJ Uyunglele from Clemson, and you got San Diego State that's every year seems to come out and surprise some people and catch some teams. And could this be the week they beat Oregon State, or does Oregon State really come out and keep up that success that the Pac-12's had? I think you look at it, if it wasn't, I believe, Arizona last week losing to Mississippi State, the Pac-12 remains undefeated this season.
Yeah.
No, good point. Brandon, what's your pick?
So for me, I'm gonna pick the home state team. I'm gonna go Kansas State, Missouri. I think this game means a lot to both teams. Both are 2-0. Both are trying to prove themselves. Not necessarily Kansas State's trying to improve themselves, but they want to be in that contention for the college playoffs later on. So this is a big one for them. It's at Mizzou. The place it can get a little crazy sometimes. So that should be a good game. Good game for this weekend.
I think that's a solid pick. Solid pick. I'm gonna end up. There's not anything that really jumps out at you.
Really.
I'm gonna pick North Carolina and Minnesota. I want to see North Carolina's offense against Minnesota's defense. I think Minnesota has a pretty solid defense, and if they can slow down North Carolina's offense, it'll be a game that they got to grind out and see. I want, it's a tough game. It's a very winnable game for North Carolina, but I want to see if Minnesota can give them a test. And then I think everybody's going to end up watching the Colorado State game just because that seems like what we're going to be doing every week. We got to see. When reality TV comes to college football, that's kind of the vibe is right now. Is there any other game that caught your eye? Any other games that caught your guys' eye?
Texas and Wyoming.
Can Wyoming hang with them? I mean, that was my thought.
Big question. I think Wyoming has the opportunity. They've taken down. I know Texas Tech isn't that necessarily big of
right,
as good of a team as they were, but Wyoming's that I don't know how to like what they are, but they're a team that can come into Texas and beat them if Texas doesn't do what they need to do. If they turn the ball over a lot, I think that one that'll be an interesting game to watch later on.
Caleb, any surprises out of there? Any dark horse games this weekend for you?
I think another one that could be a decent game would be Tennessee going down to Gainesville to the Swamp. For SEC matchup, really can see what is Tennessee going to be this year. They had a slow start. They aren't undefeated, but you look at them last week playing Austin Peay. Going into that halftime, it was a close game, and I really think this is going to be just kind of like I said with Arkansas this week. The level of competition is stepping up, and now you're going to really see what some of these teams are made of. Yeah. And to like Brandon's point, I wouldn't count Wyoming out. Does Texas come in still kind of high on the horse with the big head of, we took down Alabama and Tuscaloosa, and not really super focused on this week's matchup?
Yep. How many times have we seen that happen before? It happens quite a bit.
Exactly. There's some solid games. I wouldn't say there's any spectacular games, but there are definitely games that are going to be worth watching as the weekend goes along. Guys, let's move ahead to our week 3 picks. Obviously, in the corner, you can see our records. Not sure how I'm still down a game. Brandon and Caleb are currently winning 19-8. 19-8 to 18-9. It's really unfortunate that somebody's math skills are letting me down. And then if you guys go over and look at the college pick'em, we are all 3 14-6, and we are tied for 4th in the college pick'em behind Ted Ertl, Joe, and Rad. So we got to pick it up a little bit, guys, so we don't have to give out any merch. But no, college pick'em's going good. I appreciate everybody playing. I appreciate everybody getting their picks in all week. It's been fun. Let's get in here and make some picks, guys. Game number 1 on pick'em this week is a game you mentioned, Brandon. Kansas State versus Missouri. Let's start with you, Brandon. You brought it up. Kansas State versus Missouri. What do we got?
So even though I think this is going to be a good game, I think Kansas State takes care of business, and they show why they're the number 15 team in the state, or in the country, and come into Missouri and take care of business. Making my picks as we do this too.
Yeah, Caleb. Same question to you.
Yeah, kind of with following suit with Brandon, I think Kansas State wins this game. They go into Faurot Field and get the win here. I mean, Missouri is a team that, they always really hype themselves up, but they never live up to that hype. You got Drink, and, with what we've seen this year, they struggled last week against Middle Tennessee after coming out, a team that Alabama quite literally obliterated the previous week, and they struggled and had a close game where I think, if I remember correctly, Middle Tennessee had a drive at the end of the game that they could have won that game, but luckily Missouri got a stop in that one. So I'm taking Kansas State in this one.
Yeah, guys, I don't know. Missouri football doesn't move the needle for me. Their basketball team's impressive, but the actual football team, blah. Good for those Missouri guys for staying faithful, but get them out of here. I got Kansas State by 2 scores at least. Next game on the list: LSU versus Mississippi State. This one could be interesting. Caleb, LSU versus Mississippi State. Start us off.
Yeah, this one is definitely an interesting game when you look at it. LSU's 1-1, Mississippi State's 2-0. They had an overtime win against Arizona last week. In this one, I've got to go with the Tigers this week. Even though they are 1-1, they played a tough top team in Florida State. You see them sitting in the top 5 there. So I think even though they have that loss, they're still going to be the better team in this matchup.
Brandon, same thing. What we got?
Yeah. I'll go with LSU in this one. I don't see, even though Mississippi State's 2-0, I don't see them beating LSU.
No, I think LSU is just too talented. I think they ended up winning this one also. Next game is the game I picked for game of the week, Minnesota versus North Carolina. I'll go ahead and make my pick. I do think North Carolina pulls it out. I do think Minnesota gives them a little bit of a test, but I'm gonna stick with North Carolina on this one.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think, Caleb?
Yeah, I've got to go with North Carolina and Drake May here. They are 2-0. They had a scare last week with Appalachian State, in overtime. But I think they come out and get the win here against Minnesota.
Yep.
Brandon, go ahead.
Yeah, same thing. I'm gonna go UNC.
Next game on here is Virginia Tech versus Rutgers. The 2-0 Scarlet Knights.
Rutgers Scarlet Knights.
2-0. I cannot tell you the last time something in New Jersey was going well. But here it is. Brandon, does Rutgers make it 3-0?
Why not? Why not? I'll pick the Rutgers Scarlet Knights to win at home.
Caleb, Rutgers 3-0. Is it real?
I'm going Rutgers 3-0. Virginia Tech can enter Sandman all they want. I think Rutgers is gonna go 3-0 here. I picked against them once, and I'm not going to do it again.
I'm going Rutgers. I'm on the Rutgers bandwagon. I'm going to chop the wood. I'm gonna help them get to 3-0 this week. Rutgers moves on. Next game: Tennessee versus Florida. I'll ask it this way: do either one of you guys think Florida can win? Are you going to pick Florida to win this game? Caleb, no.
It is a home game for Florida down in the swamp. I'm just not – I haven't seen enough from Billy Napier and that team. I think Tennessee's going to come in. They're very talented. I think this is where you could see Milton take a step here and lead this team to a big conference win, especially in the East. So I'm going with Tennessee in this one.
Yeah.
Brandon, same thing?
Yep, it'll be the Tennessee Volunteers.
Yeah, I got Tennessee. I'll tell you what, Graham Mertz does not make me want to get out of bed. That guy stinks. Let's move on. Pittsburgh versus West Virginia. I think this is an interesting game. I'm going to pick Pittsburgh. Brandon, you're shaking your head. Are you going Pittsburgh too?
Yeah, I'm gonna go the Pitt Panthers. I think.
All right, I'm switching to West Virginia right now. I got to get that game back. I'm going West Virginia. I was going to pick West Virginia the whole time. It doesn't even matter. Caleb, what do you think?
I mean, the backyard brawl, this is always a big game, always a close game when you look at all the previous matchups. I've got to go with Pitt in this one. I think it's a very close game. The matchup here, if you look at what's expected, West Virginia is favored by only 2.5 with an over and under of 47. So, give me Pitt in this one.
Yeah, this should be a good game. Actually, we should have probably picked that one. Next game, Syracuse versus Purdue. The Syracuse Orange are 2-0. I think they're playing pretty good football based on everything I've seen. Caleb, who are you taking, Syracuse or Purdue?
In this one, give me the big Orange in this one. They're 2-0. They've got Schrader back. He's been lighting up so far this season. He's thrown for 543 yards and 5 touchdowns. through the first 2 weeks of the college football season. And, their running back has 4 rushing touchdowns. So, give me Syracuse and the orange in this one.
Yeah.
Brandon, same thing.
Yeah, I almost want to pick Purdue just because it's a home game for Purdue,
Yeah.
but I'm gonna go with the Syracuse Orange because I like their mascot. I think it's funny.
I'm going to go with Purdue. I think Purdue is going to be a decent test for them. I think Purdue at home, I think they're going to be a little tougher. I'm not sold on Syracuse football. So I'm going to go with the Boilermakers to pull somewhat of an upset in this one. Should be an interesting game. I'm going to obviously be tuned in so I'm trying to get that win back against you guys. Last game of not last game, but next game, TCU versus the Houston Cougars. I'm going to start off. I'm going to take in TCU. I think they're getting right. They're getting in the right direction. I'm going TCU. Brandon, who you taking?
Yeah, I don't know how you look at Houston and they beat TCU. Houston wants to be that big Power 5 school. So if they wanted that to show off that they can do that, now is the time to go in and make TCU 1 and 2. But I my gut instinct tells me to go TCU.
Caleb, thoughts?
Yeah, I honestly went back and forth on this one. With what we saw from TCU week 1 against Colorado, but then on the flip side, you look at Houston losing to Rice, who, week 1 got taken out by Texas pretty handedly.
Yeah.
And so, after a lot of back and forth on this one, I got to go with TCU,
Yeah, I think TCU is the right pick there. Next game, the Battle of Colorado. It's a lot more personal than it was earlier today. I think we're all three going Colorado, but my question to you guys is, Brandon, how much does Colorado win this game by?
I'll stick with what I said last week. I'll go 25.
Colorado just wins every game by 25.
It worked. It worked last week when they played Nebraska.
No, I thought you were right. I was wrong. I was surprised.
Me too. Me too.
Caleb, how much does Colorado win this game by?
Yeah, give me Coach Prime on prime time by I'm in here 25. The spread's 24, so give me Coach Prime on prime time winning this game big.
I'm trying to figure out how you win by 25 points with these crooked numbers. I'm going with 28. I'm going to 4 touchdown win. I like my numbers to work perfectly. I'm going 28-point victory for Colorado. Last game this week, Fresno State Bulldogs versus the Arizona State Sun Devils. Who you guys taking here? Caleb, go ahead.
Give me the Fresno State Bulldogs in this one. They're 2-0. I think they're surprising some people this year. If you look at this game, spreads Fresno State 3 with an over-under of 50.5. So this could be a high-scoring game. Arizona State does have Rashada in the backfield, a quarterback. He has not been super impressive so far this season. They were in a close game with Oklahoma State last week. I know that was in our pick'em last week.
Yeah.
And Oklahoma State hasn't been that impressive either, and they got the win in this one. So, give me Fresno State.
Yeah.
Nice. Brandon, what are we doing?
I'm actually gonna go the other way. I'll go Arizona State.
Ooh.
I'm gonna go ahead and pick Arizona. I'll go with the Sun Devils to keep the whole Pac-12 movement going.
Keep the Pac-12 strong.
Yeah, Pac-12 strong.
I like
Pac-12
that.
strong.
Hashtag Pac-12. I'm going to go Fresno State too. You got to get the Bulldogs. I think they started off the year nicely. Nice 2-0 start. This is a good test for them. Let's see if they're legit. Because if they are, they're probably they're fighting their way into being the best Group of 5 team right now. If they can win this game, so
outside of Memphis.
I know they've got Tulane to fight with and some other teams. So I'm gonna take the Bulldogs. I think it'll be an interesting game between those two teams. Yep, guys, that's our picks right there. A lot of nice picks. Obviously, our records. Brandon had a hell of a week last week.
9-1. Thanks, Texas.
Very impressive. Very impressive week. Guys, what do we got before we get out of here? I did want to go ahead and mention, Brandon, you can touch on this a little bit also. You guys now have a college basketball show getting ready to get started called the Hoops Coast to Coast. That's at Hoops CST2CST. Go give those guys a follow on Twitter. That's going to be our Variety Sports College Basketball Show. I know it's just in the developmental stages, but the Twitter is out there. Go give those guys some support. Shout out to Hoops Southbound for heading that up. Brandon, anything else you want to add on to our new college basketball show?
Yeah, no, I think it's exciting. Me and David have been talking about what this is going to be. It started out as like a Big East, branching off to having like a Hoops Big East or Hoops Skyline, I think is what he had it called. And I was like, what if we try to dive into a national college basketball show first and then branch off from there. So that's where I think that's where kind of where it started from. So we're super excited about it. Don't quite have a debut date of when it's going to be out yet, or when it's going to start. But just stay on the lookout for it. Hopefully as soon as we can get some hosts and stuff figured out, it'll be rocking and rolling. And it's going to be pretty similar to the Hoop Southbound show that's here on the Variety Sports Network as well. So it'll be a fun one.
Caleb, any thoughts on Arkansas basketball letting you down again this year?
No, it's always a tough test, but it's like a lot of the sayings going around here in Arkansas: Muss doesn't rebuild, he reloads. We just signed 2 days ago a 4-star recruit for next year's class. I've got a lot of optimism for this season's team with the return of Trevor in Brazil. We've got a lot of portal guys coming in. We signed 2 high school guys, one which I could see getting a lot of playing time, but I think we could see another run by Coach Muss this season to the tournament, and hopefully we can kind of get over that hump. We took down one of the blue blood programs last year in beating Kansas, and I think you saw really what happens, not necessarily disregarding talented freshmen, but when you've got some guys that we had Anthony Mack that played good, earned himself a lottery pick. I think the struggle with Arkansas last year was you had the whole Nick Smith saga where a highly talented recruit comes in, is injured for really most of the year, and then you try to come in late in the season and you can't really find your groove, especially. And I think I appreciate him wanting to try to help this team, but I almost kind of hindered the team a little bit by throwing off their flow, the rhythm they had with the guys that had been playing all season long. But wishing him much success. He's with Brendan Miller on the Hornets, so we'll see what that team up can do in the NBA this year. But, a lot of optimism for Arkansas basketball around here as well.
Yeah, you guys are super talented. I just had to take a shot at you. Guys, do not forget, like and subscribe to the Variety Sports Network. Recently, absolutely killing it in terms of content. I know the baseball show last night. We got multiple shows going tonight. This show, hit us up on Twitter, hit us up on Instagram, hit us up at Variety Sports. And if you need any apparel, hit up homefieldapparel.com. 15% off of your first purchase when you use code all caps Variety Sports. Brandon, anything you want to touch on before we get out of here?
Yeah, so with Home Field, they're dropping one of the new campaigns for this week at least. I don't know how long they're going to do it, but it's the Games of the Week campaign. Super cool stuff. It's some Games of the Week that you may not keep an eye on. For this week, they're dropping some awesome stuff for Pitt and for West Virginia, USM and Tulane, and then JMU and Troy. So be on the lookout. Those drop at 10 a.m. Eastern time tomorrow morning. As Doug mentioned, 15% off. All caps, Variety Sports, your first purchase.
All right, guys. And do not forget, like and subscribe. Check out Hoops Coast to Coast on Twitter. And guys, we will see you next week. That is Saturday Showdown out.
Hey, this is Brandon, CEO of the Variety Sports Network. Thank you again for watching tonight's show. Best way you can support us is by hitting that subscribe button, that like button, and hitting the notifications so you don't miss out on the next show right here on the Variety